So nice to be with everybody this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. And it's very sweet. I'll try to, Scott, Jensen, and I, we were a little late getting the live feed up this morning, but we'll try to get it up a good 10 minutes before next Sunday. So that way, those of you who want to get on and even using the live chat, as some of you are already just greeting each other or whatever, messages you want to offer to each other. So there's a little social time, as limited as it might be over, the live stream, but it's something. And then we'll plan to get started always just a little bit after 10:30. And as I mentioned to the folks a little bit earlier, we'll continue doing the chants as we usually do at the center. And today we're on page 30, and you can find your own copy of the chants under resources on one of the main menu items on our homepage. And when you click on resources, down in the middle of that list will be Common Ground chants. And you can just print the pages we normally chant, page 26, page 27. And then today we're on 30. And then sometimes we do page 28 as well. So those are the 4 pages we usually rotate between. So today, let's chant together. When Fricky is in the room with me, so we'll chant here in the old Common Ground meditation space, which is now our living room. And we're doing suffusion with the divine abidings, or the 4 quarters chant. So let's begin. Now let us make the 4 boundless qualities shine forth. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a mind imbued with compassion, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a mind imbued with gladness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Taking our time now, preparing for the meditation. We listen to the body and make the adjustments we need so we can sit in a relaxed and relatively upright manner where we feel like we're right in the middle of our experience, alert, trusting, relaxing, allowing this activity of our body and mind to be the way it is right now. And as we settle, we're identifying very particular, essential meditative muscles. This wisdom and this wise effort that knows how to recognize the different impulses in the heart to think about this or that. But wisdom recognizes, don't need to do that. Don't need to go there. And this wisdom arises from this growing, deepening sense that it's really safe for the heart, for the mind to be simple. Simply aware that it feels like this now. This activity of the mind and body is like this now. To whatever degree that our mind doesn't recognize this landing place, being intimate with the activity of the moment, then it will be out of habit compelled to get identified, take personally a thought, a sensation, a sound, and then to begin to mentally proliferate to think about that particular experience endlessly. But to whatever degree over the course of our practice, for some of you many, many years of practice, so to whatever degree our heart has learned to appreciate, to trust this radical simplicity of knowing this activity of the body and the mind is like this now, and not just recognizing this place, but learning to trust it and to sense the peacefulness of being aware and allowing everything to be the way it is. This peace has the flavor of equanimity or non-reactivity. It's a serene, light, full quality of the heart and mind, where everything belongs. So hopefully in our own particular setting this morning, the way the body is, the room we're in, the particular conditions of our life right here and now are suitable enough, good enough, that we can practice this radical simplicity. So instead of the mind feeling obliged to get entangled with our thoughts, with the sounds in the room, with the sensations in the body, with the sights that are being seen, instead of that, wisdom trusts the settling, this allowing everything to move. And we can just start by allowing the sensations in the body to move and allowing the breathing process to move. Breath naturally comes in and then it naturally goes out. And not only trusting the movement of the breath and the movement of sensation, but also trusting the movement of sound. What a relief to realize we don't have to control, we don't have to have an opinion about these movements of sound and these movements of sensation. Instead, let the heart orient around the peacefulness of non-reactivity, or the peacefulness of allowing these conditions of the body and mind to move, to be the way they are now. And so this is equally true with any seeing that comes and goes, and of course with any thinking, any mental activity whatsoever that comes and goes. And you'll notice the more wisdom trusts this radical simplicity, this way of being equanimous with the different conditions coming and going, then you'll catch the different impulses to worry or to plan or to have doubt or whatever, but without taking the bait, without the mind getting identified or personalizing these impulses to think, to react. And that's very empowering, where the personality is still the way it is, all the habit energies, they haven't disappeared. But wisdom is less and less confused by these tendencies, these conditioned habits. So let's continue now in silence. If you can, let this quality of the mind, of the heart, of radical simplicity be what wisdom keeps in mind. So in a sense, it's the object of meditation. The beautiful simplicity of the heart and mind. So we'll be sitting for another 5 minutes or so. See if you can notice the sense of space now here in the mind, in the heart, in the body, the space of the present moment, the space of knowing or the space of awareness. And see if you can sense this space as a kind of generous space. Space that's willing to include whatever's coming and going now in the body and mind, whatever feelings are coming and going in the heart. As if the space of the heart itself is a beautiful and generous smile. This beautiful, generous, inclusive smile of the heart. That isn't afraid to include the whole body, not needing the body to be different than it is right now. Notice the simple healing of including the whole body as it is. Nothing left out. And including the whole sensitive, feeling heart just as it is. Nothing left out. Including the great space of the mind, the knowing mind, space of awareness, and the space of the entire earth, all our dear ones, all the creatures, all the people we share this planet with. In a very simple but beautiful way, this space of yes, yes, it's like this. Saying yes to all the conditions that are moving, coming and going. Not afraid. We're learning, practicing not being afraid to say yes. That this moment is this way now. Does it mean that we wanted the moment to be this way? It simply means that wisdom recognizes that it is this way now, right here in the body, right here in the feeling heart, here in the thinking mind, here in this great world, swirling world of creatures and humans. In other words, is there a heart that can hold, can open, and include everything? The totality of the inner space and outer space. Nothing left out. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes, making adjustments as you need to. I'm hoping that most of you are safe enough in your homes with your family, with your friends, pets. And for those of you who are having a hard time or have the illness or experiencing loss, I think I can speak for the community that our hearts go out and we wish you safety and well-being. And feel free always, everyone, to contact the center if there are things that the ways that the center can assist you, or Shelley Graff or I can reach out and connect with you. You just contact the center. And I've also been telling folks that you're welcome to send your questions in ahead of time. You can just email them to the main office email, info@commongroundmeditationcenter.org. And then Shelley on Wednesday, and then I on Sundays, we'll see if we can use some of those questions in our talk and discussion. And at any time, you're also welcome to write down a question in the live chat to your right. And I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I think you have to subscribe to the Common Ground YouTube channel in order to be able to use the live chat. But if you haven't subscribed and you're chatting, then you can let me know that in the chat, and then I'll take that back. And we've been looking at path, the spiritual path, the path of awakening, what we often call Dharma or Dhamma, that word we use in different ways, the way it is. But it also refers to this path of awakening, this pointing out from this human being we call the Buddha, the one who is awake. That's what Buddha means. It's a title. Someone who's awake, someone who sees things as they are, someone who is living from that place, that marriage of intimacy and non-attachment or non-grasping. And we've looked at how, just the components of the path. It begins with this insight that it actually matters how we're showing up in the world, how we're relating. It matters in terms of just the intentions and how we understand the intentions that are driving our actions and ways of seeing, ways of thinking. It matters in terms of how we relate to others. And now we've been looking at how it matters how we take care of the mind, how we care for the heart and mind. So tonight, or rather this morning, is the second talk in caring for the heart and mind. And I want to start with this quote that a longtime community member, Stacy from South Carolina, used to live in the Twin Cities, but now is teaching at South Carolina, sent from Ross Gay's book, The Book of Delights. It's just beautiful, couple paragraphs that I'll read. Among the most beautiful things I've ever heard anyone say came from my student Bethany, talking about her pedagogical aspirations or ethos, how she wanted to be as a teacher, and what she wanted her classrooms to be. Quote, "What if we joined our wildernesses together? Sit with that for a minute, that the body, the life might carry a wilderness, an unexplored territory, and that yours and mine might somewhere, somehow meet, might even join. And what if the wilderness, perhaps the densest wild in there, thickets, bogs, swamps, uncrossable ravines, and rivers, have I made the metaphor clear, is our sorrow? Or to use Smith's term, the intolerable. It astonishes me sometimes, no, often, how every person I get to know, everyone, regardless of everything, by which I mean everything, lives with some profound personal sorrow. Brother addicted, mother murdered, dad died in surgery, rejected by their family, cancer came back, evicted, fetus not okay. Everyone regardless always of everything. Not to mention the existential sorrow we all might be afflicted with, which is that we and what we love will soon be annihilated. Which sounds more dramatic than it might. Let me just say dead. Is this sorrow of which our impending being no more might be the foundation, the great wilderness? Is sorrow the true wild? And if it is, and if we join them, your wild to mine, what's that? For joining two is a kind of annihilation. What if we joined our sorrows? I'm saying, what if that is a joy? And I don't know about you, but for me, in many different ways, this passage points to our practice, how we practice together. And in particular, when we talk about caring for our heart and mind, we have to strengthen this particular spiritual muscle that we could call dropping the mind's addictive or attached, identified relationship to the objects of our experience. There's something about being present, being intimate, that frees the mind from its reactive, identified ways of relating. When we're present with the experience in the moment, present with an in-breath, present with hearing, present with the body sitting, present with our feeling, heart, whatever the emotional feeling might be, when we're really present, there's a fullness, a wholeness to that presence. So full and so whole that there really isn't room in the heart, in the mind, to be reacting, to be identifying, to have an opinion, to even have doubt. That's why it was such a brilliant thing for the Buddha to realize in the course of his own practice, that the way to purify the mind of a lot of reactivity, a lot of unhelpful mental activity, is just to meet one's life in a full, whole, all-inclusive way. And whether we use a more narrow focus on one particular aspect of the present moment, like feeling the sensations of breathing in, or feeling the body sitting, or we have a much more broad, inclusive opening to the present moment, where whatever particular experience is predominant in that moment, that's there in the forefront, everything else is there in the periphery. But we're not picking and choosing. We're just saying, yeah, this moment's like this. Even what we might consider to be unwholesome qualities of mind, like a lot of doubt or a lot of sense of self-pity, that could be known too. So when we join the present moment, when we connect with another, when we meet in this wilderness of the present moment, as this author Ross Gay is talking about, it is a kind of annihilation, and it is that joy that I mentioned last week that the Buddha highlights, really emphasizes. It's kind of an essential spiritual muscle because it includes so much emotional, psychological healing. And this is the joy of seclusion, the mind that knows how to drop its addictive relationship to the present moment. Wynn reminded me, my partner, Wynn Fricke, one of our teachers at Common Ground, the co-founder, of a passage that I think I also heard Venerable Analio, this German monk, mentioned when he was either present with Ajahn Brahm or reading about something Ajahn Brahm said. Ajahn Brahm is a well-known English Buddhist monk and abbot of a monastery in Australia. Very well-known, popular teacher. And evidently, at some point, when he was teaching, he held up a glass of water and asked those in the room, "How do you make this glass of water still?" And of course, he was talking about, the glass of water as a simile for maybe the activity of the mind or the mind itself. But his response, he answered his own question, the way we still the glass of water, the way we still the mind is we put it down. We put it down, put it on the ground. So we leave things alone. Now, it's not easy to leave things alone. And so, this is why we're really fortunate to have the Buddhist instructions or other wise people who've been looking at their mind, opening to their heart for a long time, and have learned what doesn't work. Wanting to let go, wanting our minds to be quiet and peaceful is often very agitating, and hating ourselves for not having a peaceful mind is definitely agitating. And thinking somebody has a more peaceful mind than yours, definitely agitating. So mostly what we learn is what doesn't work. And then hearing that instruction over and over again, we get curious about, well, what does work? What would they mean when they say dropping or putting it down? This part of the path that we're talking about now, it's called Samadhi. And it's really, Samadhi means this stability or unification, the coming together of the mind. So the mind isn't working against itself. Every part of the mind, this natural process of the heart-mind, every part of it, every thread of the mind is working to the same end, which is to be open or intimate with the conditions without being entangled with the conditions of the present moment. So what we learn in terms of that initial freedom, that taste of freedom of the mind secluding itself from the activity is, this art of opening to something pleasant or relatively neutral and practicing being with it in a full way, not holding back at all. And there's any number of experiences, even in this moment right now. You could be working with the sensations of your body, or you could be aware of hearing, or any number of aspects of the present moment. But the real heart of the practice is doing it in a full or whole, not holding back way. So that we're not somehow out of habit allowing some part of the mind, in a sense, that sense of me in the background, complaining or judging or being in a hurry or being impatient or having doubt. It's very easy for the mind to fragment in this way, where we think we're doing one thing, but actually the mind is, in a sense, switching back and forth. It's sort of trying to be a meditator and connect with the present moment. And it's also sitting in the background, feeling a lot of doubt, like, this never worked in the past. It's probably not going to work now. I might as well give up. Or why isn't this sit like the previous sit that I had, that really good sit that I had? So the mind has any number of ways, because of habit, to undermine itself, to fragment. And so the initial step, once we've settled into our sitting posture and we're feeling like we're kind of right there in the middle of things, and then could be some traditional meditation object, like feeling the physicality of the breathing process right here, that rising and falling of the abdomen, or that touching at the nostrils, going in of the air and the out of the air. Or it could be just a more general sense of embodiment, just the body sitting, which might even include the kind of grosser quality of the feeling heart. Does the heart feel hard? Does it feel held? Does it feel open and light? But whatever that felt sense of sitting, being embodied might be, right? We just start somewhere, and more important than where we start is that understanding that not holding back matters. That whatever the mind is doing in the sit, in the meditation, it matters. So we're not holding back or thinking that we can do it in a half-hearted way, because the whole process, like whatever benefit we get, arises because of the wholeheartedness, not sort of holding back at all. And even if the process that we're undertaking is a little off, we didn't get the instructions right, or we're just confused for some reason, if we do it wholeheartedly, we're going to learn something like, oh, this isn't working. Oops. What might I have misunderstood? Shelley, for those who listened to Shelley's talk on Wednesday night, one of the things they talked about was spiritual urgency. Samvega is the Pali word. This is from Sayadaw Uttejaniya. And I might have read this lesson, I forget. Samvega, spiritual urgency, is a kind of wisdom. Understanding the fundamental nature of experience can lead to a strong feeling that we must complete the practice. For example, we may realize that we can't escape having to experience. We must experience and experience and experience. And this may feel like an oppressiveness we are constantly needled by. If we truly felt this as dukkha, as pain and suffering, how fast would we run toward the path? And this is why, like at the beginning of the sit today, just encouraging us to touch into that place of simplicity and to detect some sense of peacefulness and equanimity, the release, the non-entanglement of that simplicity. Because it's only when we touch in and have a sense that that simplicity of heart and mind, the mind that's intimate, but not entangled with attachment, with fear and greed, that peace really allows the mind, or you could say, allows wisdom to see the more subtle tendencies, the more subtle habits of grasping, of wanting and not wanting, and getting entangled with sleepiness, and getting entangled with restlessness, getting entangled with doubt. These hindrances of the mind. So, in a way, this peace of seclusion, the settledness of seclusion that comes from opening to the present moment in a whole way, not holding back, even ordinary experience like the body sitting, hearing, the quality of the heart, just that understanding that the meditative process depends on wholeheartedness. You could use the word sincerity, not holding back. And we're sincerely valuing this opening to the present moment, to embodiment, to here and now. And then noticing, training the mind to notice how right that feels, the well-being that's there. Because to some degree at least, the mind isn't running from the present moment, isn't neurotically trying to construct someplace else, somebody I want to become, something I want to happen, something I want to get rid of. It's ceasing to do that activity, and that's experienced as a kind of peace, a spiritual peace. This can be trusted. This embodied moment, as imperfect as it is from this normal or relative point of view, can be trusted because it is this way now. And the heart has this capacity to land, to put down the neurotic striving to become, the neurotic wanting and not wanting, at least for moments at a time. And then when there are enough of those moments, then the wisdom learns something about the habits of greed and the habits of aversion. They really start to stand out next to the relative peace of simplicity. Even ordinary, what we wouldn't consider to be neurotic thinking, like it's a little cold in the room, which I'm feeling right now. Even that thought arising and any identification, like the mind habitually personalizing that thought, it's a little cold in the room, is experienced as a kind of stress. Like there can be that thought without any identification. There's no reason for the mind to lose its grounding in simplicity. That these thoughts, it's a little cold in the room, or are people understanding what I'm saying? It could be a more sort of seductive thought might arise. Am I doing a good job? Um, but the mind doesn't need to be entangled. So it's not about not having those kinds of thoughts or mental activities or emotions. It's about the mind realizing that it values the simplicity. And in order to really value the simplicity, it has to let nature be nature. It can't do both. It's neurotic trying to control and manage and become, and value simplicity. So by valuing the simplicity of being present, wholly present, open or intimate with the conditions, the movement of body and mind in the present moment, then it loses its capacity to manage and become and control and react and be neurotic. And this is how we slowly find the way, understand the path. And so we're talking in particular today about these three aspects of the path that have to do with caring for the heart and mind: wise effort, wise mindfulness, and wise concentration. And I just want to kind of dig in a little deeper with wise effort. So understanding enough that it matters, and out of this understanding that it matters, we see so much how I live in a way, my mind relates in a way that isn't helpful, and that breaks the heart open with eventually a pretty fierce movement towards compassionate action. Like, I want to take care of myself because I know how easy it is for my heart and mind to get entangled in dark places and difficult entanglements and heavy states and fearful states and craving states. I mean, who among us haven't been burnt enough by our own mental constructions to realize we're in danger because of our habit energies? And if we just sort of let our habit energies do what they're inclined to do, we could be in miserable states, tormented states a lot of the time. So when we realize that possibility of being in tormented states, why wouldn't the good heart, the compassionate heart, say, no more, honey, I'm going to do whatever I can do. I'm going to learn whatever has to be learned to take care of myself. And this fierceness, this compassionate fierceness, initially gets expressed as these 4 exertions that just slowly get clarified over the years of practice, making the exertion to abandon entanglements that are entangling and heavy and difficult and planting seeds of suffering. So when we catch our mind identified and caught, well, of course, we're going to make that gentle and persistent effort to put it down. Even if we don't have a clue how to do it, we'll learn through trial and error. Well, this isn't helping, let me try something else. It's not so much about making a brute force, because we learn pretty quickly that trying to use brute force with the mind doesn't work very well. And we find our other ways to abandon. So that's the effort to abandon unwholesome qualities of mind, right? So when we're caught wanting, like I mentioned, I'm a little cold, feeling the room being a little cold. And so um, I might catch my mind blaming myself or blaming somebody else for not turning the heat up more, or blaming the fact that I live in Minnesota and even at the end of March, it's still pretty cold out. Well, why is it so gray today? Why aren't there any sunshine? So I can catch that. I can catch how stressful that is and completely unproductive. That kind of thinking, that kind of internal complaining is stressful and doesn't lead to anything, as much as I can tell, that's beneficial for myself or anybody. So when we see that, the Buddha talks about it as finding out that we're holding a hot pan, we just let go. Like we hold on to it only because out of ignorance, we imagine that kind of internal complaining goes somewhere. But from the place of that simplicity, that wise, whole presence, present moment awareness, that kind of complaining is seen for what it is. It's stressful and it allows for the abandoning. So we abandon what isn't helpful, and then we also make that effort to prevent the mind from picking up unwholesome, going down unwholesome avenues that aren't going to be helpful. And I mentioned that in the guided meditation today. When we're in a relatively settled, peaceful place, you might notice the mind inclined to pick up some content and to go down that avenue. Like, oh, yeah, why did that person say that to me? Or what am I going to do about this? And wisdom can detect, is going down, is following that thread, getting identified. I need to think about this. I need to pick up this now. Is that helpful? And just sort of noticing what that quality of the mind, the quality of the intention that wants to grasp onto that content, is that a trustworthy quality of mind that's inclined to take up, hold on to, identify with that content of that thought? Because if it isn't, it's relatively easy to prevent the mind from grasping that content, from going down that off ramp right at the beginning. Once the mind has been proliferating, mentally entangled, thinking for a while, then it's, in a sense, it's got a head of steam. And it's not so easy to put it down. I'm sure you all know this. Sometimes we're so entangled, so much momentum, that it isn't until the mind is deeply exhausted that it puts it down. It just kind of can't handle the weight of it anymore, and it jumps ship, often, unfortunately, into another drama that has the same flavor, but at least it's a different drama. And we jump from one rageful drama to another one, or one lustful drama to another one. So it's really useful to catch these in the middle, this wholesome effort or exertion to prevent the mind from going down pathways that aren't helpful, that aren't going to lead to anybody's benefit. Do I need to be thinking about this? Do I need to go down this mental avenue? No, I've been down that many times. Doesn't really lead anywhere useful. I think not. What else might I put my attention on so that I don't just by default go down this pathway that I'm pretty sure isn't going to be helpful? It's like, sure, we might think it once, but when we catch ourselves thinking or going down some content, picking up some content for the fourth or fifth or 25th time, well, that's the clue, right? Like, why does the mind, why is it inclined to pick it up again and again? Am I really going to see things differently than I've seen them before? So the first two efforts we make, so we're there, we're in that relatively simple place. And then the first one would be we don't even realize we've lost it. We've taken some pathway. The mind's been entangled for 5 minutes. And then mindfulness emerges. And we realize that the mind is caught up. There's some momentum, there's some entanglement, not easy to put down. And there's this very essential muscle, spiritual muscle, like, this is not okay. And sometimes just noticing the unwholesomeness of the entanglement itself is enough to shock the mind out of the entanglement. Oh yeah, this is not helpful. Sometimes you need to dangle something wholesome and interesting to the mind. This is the advantage of having worked with a meditation anchor for a long time. You can dangle it out in front of the mind. Do you want to come back to the breath? Remember, you like the breath. You have nice experiences being with the breath. You sure you don't want to come back? Right? Even wholesome fear. If you keep thinking about this, it's going to be really unpleasant. It's easier to sort of drop this now than it will be in 10 minutes. How about dropping it now? Basically, whatever works to abandon. And then once you get back to being in the present moment with some continuity, some sense of the wholesomeness and the inner spiritual pleasure of being in the present moment, in that inclusive place of the present moment, that experience of embodiment, or with the meditation anchor, with the objects coming and going, but not being entangled, then you'll notice when objects come that might be entangling, and you'll feel the impulse, the mind, to get identified. But wisdom will say, oh, honey, we don't need to go there. Don't need to pick that up. That's that effort to prevent the mind from going in directions that it isn't helpful, doesn't lead to anybody's benefit. And then when we're in that place, the best way to prevent the mind from getting into entangling places is to develop and maintain wholesome qualities. Often this is talked about as the 7 factors of awakening, the energizing and tranquilizing qualities of the heart and mind that bring the mind into this beautiful balance. But really, just to keep it simple, deepening the mind's understanding there. So we're there, relatively present with the body, with hearing, with the breathing, with thoughts coming and going, but not confused by the mental content that's arising and passing. Just thoughts. Oh yeah, know these. Don't need to identify, just mental content. Is really getting clear about mindfulness itself, really valuing mindful awareness, that inclusive stability of present moment awareness, because that naturally brings, allows the wholesome qualities of mind to shine forth. Somewhere in the suttas or in the tradition, I don't know if it's in the commentaries, but there's this point that when mindfulness is deeply understood, all the other good friends, all the other wholesome qualities of mind become more apparent. And so this developing of the wholesome qualities and the maintaining of wholesome qualities, this balance of wholesome, enlivening, energizing qualities and wholesome, tranquilizing qualities, just appreciating, valuing that stability of present moment awareness, the continuity of present moment awareness, what we often talk about as this is being known. The continuity of the wisdom that knows, recognizes the present moment in this way. Oh yeah, this is being known. This is being known. Now this is being known. It's just this experience of the body or mind being known. There's experience that will naturally be in the forefront of one's attention. There are experiences that will be in the periphery. To some degree, the mind will have habits about what is allowed into the forefront. But in any case, in their essence, it's just something being known. It's just the next experience being felt, being known. And to really appreciate how powerful, how full, how stable, how clarifying that is. And I tried to suggest with that last part of the guided meditation today that that wholeness, that fullness of present moment awareness really has the quality of love too. It's right there in that boundless, inclusive quality of awareness, that everything belongs, nothing has to be left out. So we'll pick this up next week. Continue to talk about how we care for the heart and mind, this part of practice we call Samadhi, wise Samadhi, wise stability, unification of the heart and mind. But Wynn's here with me, and we'll look at a few of the questions that might have come up. Wynn, did any questions come up from the live chat? If you have any questions, and I'll just mention too while I'm waiting, or we're waiting, that on Tuesday at 12 noon, Wynn and I are going to start with a guided meditation, and Wynn and I together will be answering people's questions. So that will be every Tuesday for the next month or two at least, at 12 noon. And that's going to be a Zoom chat so we can see each other. And you'll see that link on the Common Ground public calendar. And in the weekly email, you can get that Zoom link. And then just join us if you'd like at Tuesday at 12 noon until 1 p.m. We'll have a half an hour guided meditation, and then question and answers, and also comments and discussions with our community, all of us who want to join in. So let's see if there's anything coming in here. Oh, sure. Wynn says she has a question.
I was just appreciating what you were saying about sort of really valuing simplicity, and it seems like in this time when we're needing to be secluded, like if you have thoughts or tips about how we could frame our thinking about using this as a really wholesome opportunity.
Yeah, so Wynn's question was about simplicity and valuing simplicity. And, you know, we're in this strange and unique time. And a lot of us, I'm sure some people are really experiencing difficulties, but a lot of us in this secluded time, it's sort of this almost like a retreat time. So how can we use the simplicity? How can we learn to value it? And the thing is, it can't, and this is where we often go, we make it a should. Oh, I should be using this time for retreat. I should be a good Buddhist doing my practice. You know, I have no excuse. I could be sitting twice a day, or I could be sitting longer. You know, I shouldn't be spending my time watching videos or eating, or, you know. And so the thing is, shoulds don't tend to work very well. This is sort of basic human wisdom, right? We can't should our way into good habits. But what does work is understanding the thread of pleasure. There's a spiritual pleasure behind wholesome spiritual activities. If we don't tune into the joy of the practice, we're not going to do it for long. We can shame our way into practice for a little bit. We can use sort of the group dynamic, you know, getting swept away because our friends are into it. That works for a little bit. But to have a long-term practice, we really have to find in our own mind, in our own heart, in our own experience, some thread, some that really feeds us in a way that matters, actually matters. Now, this way of being spiritually fed is subtle. So, like, compare it to an intense movie or exciting food or some kind of other grosser sense pleasure. So, we need a mechanism that can recognize subtle pleasure, spiritual pleasure. And so it's a bit of a setup when we're feeling in a grosser state of mind, a denser state of mind, where the only thing that sort of can cut through our distractedness is something gross, like an intense movie or intense meal or something that has a lot of, impact. So this is the, endless chicken and egg problem in spiritual practice. It's sort of, we need some calm, we need some settledness to find our way. And this is the one danger we should see as danger. When we're distracted, we're in danger because we don't know what's for our own benefit or for the benefit of others. The world is distorted when we're in a distracted place. Yeah. So we have to value calm so that we can find our way to a more trustworthy pleasure. And in Buddhism, we call it the pleasure of letting go, or this beautiful, liberating marriage of intimacy and non grasping, as some people have talked about it.
Related question: when completely lost, no contact with the moment, what is a good tool to bring myself back?
When completely lost, no contact with the present moment, what's a good way to come back to the present moment? Well, when we're actually completely lost, we're completely lost. And the only thing that can save us when we're completely lost is having already in the past cultivated the habit to be mindful. And then that habit has to break through the being completely lost in thought or in some reaction. And then mindfulness, the habit of mindfulness, re-emerges because of the force of habit, and it illuminates the moment. Oh, I've been lost in this reactive habit. I've been lost in anger, or I've been lost and lost. And it feels like this. So when we're completely lost, we're completely lost. When we're sort of lost, entangled, but there's some thread in the mind and wisdom that knows that we're kind of lost, then it's really that powerful place of allegiance. Can I sense this growing, deepening allegiance to clarity, to want to feel and see things as they are? Or is the force of habit to go with distractedness going to win the day? And so in those moments where we're sort of lost, but not completely lost, valuing, really sincerely valuing, like a true friend. It can't be idealistic. It has to be heartfelt, this attraction, this valuing of mindful awareness, of wisdom awareness, wanting to see things as they are, wanting to feel what's here to feel. Not like, and related to that valuing of mindfulness is an honest and trustworthy fear of distractedness, of disconnection. I see we're a few minutes over. We should probably leave it here. I'll look through any questions that have come up. Wynn and I will use them on Tuesday maybe to get started in the Q&A time. And then hopefully other people will have your own comments as well as questions. So I hope to see some of you there on Tuesday. Shelley will be back. They're using that book by Thanissaro and Kittasaro. I'm forgetting the title of it, but Gabe will have that. Gabe Keller-Flores, our office manager, will have that in the weekly email in case people want to read along with Shelley and the Wednesday weekly practice group. People are also welcome to join in on Tuesday evening. It's week 4 of the intro class, especially those who are relatively new to the practice. You can find that Zoom link on our website and in the weekly email. And then Monday night, tomorrow night, will be the Buddhist studies. I think it's week 4, possibly week 5, but I think week 4 in the course on cultivating wholesome relationships. So I hope to continue to see everybody in these online formats, and really grateful for Steve or for Scott Jensen and Gabe Keller-Flores and many volunteers that have been helping us do these live stream programs. Nice to have Winfricky with me. We'll leave the live stream up for a few minutes if people want to do any live chats to each other, and then hope to see you down the road, everyone.